Greetings, science fiction and fantasy enthusiasts. Do you read books? Do you watch films? Do you hate deodorant? Then welcome to our podcast. With Ryan Sean O'Reilly, David Wilkinson, and Richard Mell. You're listening to No Deodorant in Outer Space. Now, let's get started.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of No Deodorant in Outer Space. With me, as usual, is my factionless fiends. Lurking in the darkness, straight out of Michigan, the evil erudite David P. Wilkinson.
Hi, how you doing? Hi.
Alongside him, my good friend, broadcasting straight out of his hippie commune in Amity, Richard E. Mell.
Yo, dudes.
Okay, and of course I'm Ryan O'Reilly, giving you all the candor you can handle. Joining us also on this broadcast, we have a guest, Amanda Budnick.
Yep.
Am I pronouncing that correctly?
That's correct.
All right. Amanda is joining us. She's a big fan of the book we're about to talk about, and what else?
I don't get a label.
Amanda, I was hoping Amanda.
I would probably be Divergent if I was anything, so I can take that title.
Okay,
awesome.
Fair enough. We'll give you the title of Divergent.
Yes.
So before we start, Wilk, you had some trouble making the podcast. What happened? We had to push back.
Well,
was that your flat tire?
yeah. No, I this morning when I was getting off the exit to go to my office, I hit a pothole and it knocked out my radio. And it was like a teeth chattering thing. And I drove about a mile, parked, was at my office for 12 hours or whatever. And then I walk out and my tire was completely flat. So I had to have it towed to a Bell Tire and they patched it up and here I am. That was that picture was like a.
Did that hubcap?
What's that?
Did that hubcap pop off during your accident, or did you always have like a hubcapless wheel?
There's like a whole ordeal with my tires right now that I don't want to get into, but I guess I could. But yeah, no, they
it's a yes or no question. Yeah. Okay.
No, it didn't pop off.
Never mind.
No.
Did you just remove them like I did after two of my hubcaps were stolen, and I decided to just remove the rest?
No, I have custom rims on my car apparently, and when I got a flat tire, they couldn't replace the custom rim because it doesn't exist anywhere outside of my car, and they wanted me to pay like $800 for 4 new rims. I said, give me the cheapest tire that'll fit my car, and that's the one that they gave me. So I've got.
Why don't you just use some of that Mad Podcast money to pay for new rims?
I did, and it was fine. They only take U.S. currency here or Mark Maron bucks. So.
Okay. Well, we're glad that you're able to make it and join us despite your less than stellar hubcaps and rims. Amanda, you're a big fan of these books we're about to talk about, and why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself in the sense of what your interest is in science fiction, fantasy, horror, those kind of related genres. I don't know, your favorite books, your favorite authors, anything like that.
Yeah, so I guess my first series that I sort of fell in love with was Harry Potter, which falls into that fantasy genre. And then when I was in high school, kind of a new genre formed of like futuristic dystopian novels, and kind of just fell in love with that. I like to read because I like to escape the real world. I don't like reading books that are like everyday life. I find them a bit boring. I kind of read in order to escape reality. So that's why I really like the genre. And I read Divergent 2 years ago, and I saw the movie last year. So I've read the whole series. So I will try not to spoil the series, but I guess try to give some insight into how the rest of the series has influenced my opinion of the first book, I guess.
Sure, that'd be great.
A little bit different perspective.
Well, hey,
cool.
And Amanda, if I can jump in, I would encourage you to spoil the series because I'm going to, because I read ahead.
Okay.
I was so mystified by the first book, I read the second book and half of the third one.
No, Wilk, no spoilers for the second and third book. Only spoilers for the book we're talking about. You know the rules.
Okay, but it completely
I guess I'm gonna follow the rules, but
there's no rules. Overall, the problems I have with the first book were largely answered by the second and third book. The things that made no sense to me actually made a little bit more sense, and I was less offended by the existence of this book. So
yeah, I think at the end of the first book, there's
seriously.
still a lot of questions.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Let's. Okay, we can get into books. But Amanda, any other books in this genre that you like that stuck out with you? Like, are you a fan of the Hunger Games?
Yeah, I really liked the Hunger Games, and I have to say, the Hunger Games and the Maze Runner were probably two series that I think had a really good book to film adaptation. I was a little disappointed with Divergent's film, especially comparing that to Hunger Games, and I think Maze Runner did a really good job of translating that to film. So those were good ones, I thought.
All right, that's fine. So let's just get on to the subject that we were going to talk about. We're reviewing Divergent, the book by Veronica Roth, which was released in 2011, and the movie Divergent, which is directed by Neil Berger and, among others, Ashley Judd, and which was released in 2014. So let's just go around the horn real quick, and everyone just give their opening thoughts about the book or movie. Wilk, let's just start with you.
A college student who wants to make a point about how much she loved John Hughes movies and not joining a sorority wrote a book and called it this Divergent.
All right. Rick.
A book about a teenager who's basically writing a diary about herself and how she's falling in love and trying to navigate her way through a crazy, crazy world.
All right. Amanda, opening thoughts from...
I thought it was an overall just arching story about a teenager trying to find out who she is and where she fits in society, but in a much different society than where we live.
Okay. It's pretty close to my take on this one. I just felt this was a young woman's action-filled quest for identity in a society of rigid virtues gone sour. So the author that wrote this book is, of course, Veronica Roth. I don't think we can do one of these opening remarks without Wilk laughing at me. And I always almost wait for that laugh as I'm saying it. But let's just...
I just like your organic thoughts that are just on the tip of your tongue, like your...
Well, they're not.
Your action-packed thoughts.
They're not
are rife.
I never said
with
they were
creativity
organic.
and spontaneity.
I never said they were organic.
No, I did, implying that you did. So
okay.
Yeah. No, go on. Sorry. No, go. Sorry. Go, please. Yes.
Rick, tell us about the author, Miss Veronica Roth. Give us a little background on her.
Veronica Hillary Roth, born in New York City. I think she was just there briefly with her mother, who got divorced and moved out to Barrington, Illinois. Was it Barrington or somewhere on the north side?
She's from Barrington.
It was Schaumburg.
Very affluent area. No, it wasn't Schaumburg. I know that for a fact. She remarried, and she grew up on the north side, and there's not a whole lot of personal information about her. There's a little bit of information on her religious takes. She claims she's a Christian. Her mother comes from a Jewish background. Her mother's parents were Holocaust survivors.
She became a Christian later in life, right? In high school, I think.
Yeah, a little bit later. Her mother, I guess,
Jesus had a Jewish mother.
Was kind of like she just sort of denied being Jewish. Well, I don't know if she ever denied it, but she just stopped because she didn't believe that she should be taking religion so seriously, so her kind of left.
She switched factions. Is that what you're saying? She left the Jewish faction to go to the Christian faction?
She did. Her mother was Divergent and left Veronica with this confused life, yes.
She wanted to eat shrimp on a piece of matzah. Divergent!
Okay. Well, Rick, What else you got?
What else? Oh, so she went to, I think, one of the local colleges, and then she ended up transferring to...
She went to... Go ahead, I'm sorry. I interrupted you.
Local college? She went to Northwestern.
Yeah.
I was just going to say she
transferred to
Northwestern.
Yeah, she's a graduate of her creative writing program, and she wrote these when she when she was actually in school, and I think she inked her book deal before she graduated.
Do you think that, or do you know that?
I know that.
Okay.
I don't know if she wrote the entire book. She said she wrote the entire book on a winter break. I don't believe it.
I believe it.
Probably a first draft.
Yeah, okay. You could tell the book was...
I mean, she had the idea fermenting it for a while.
Yeah, she was taking psychology classes, and she was intrigued by an exercise that they put people through to face their fears so that people
exposure therapy.
can exposure therapy. The way they do that, she didn't really describe it in detail. I'm sure it's not like at all like what the Dauntless had employed. But
Dauntless.
Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
I'm sorry. She said, I've heard in some interviews, she said that basically if you have like a fear of spiders, they find a safe environment and they just keep exposing you to spiders until your brain kind of changes and you stop having the anxiety reaction to it. And that formed the basis of the theory behind how Divergent is. You know what?
I love that.
Or how, the fiction Dauntless operates. It sort of reminded me, though, a little bit of Clockwork Orange. They almost have exposure therapy in that book.
Oh, such a good book. Let's not talk about that tonight.
Yeah, that was a good one. So, Veronica decided to take that to the next level and just write a whole story about facing your fears, being in Dauntless, which she thought she would be a part of initially. Like, if she had a personal choice of being in any of these factions, she would choose Dauntless. But that kind of changed over time, and I guess she said that she wouldn't be in Dauntless because she'd probably die instantly, and she would probably end up in abnegation, which she probably wouldn't be too good at. So she's very vain. But what else? That's pretty much all I got on her. I mean,
I did see a good anecdote.
Go ahead.
When she got the publishing deal, she had this little bucket list, and she wanted to do a bunch of sensible things and one insensible thing. And her insensible thing, upon getting the deal, was to jump into a pool of marshmallows, but they couldn't get a pool, so they filled a bathtub with marshmallows, and she jumped into it. And that gave me some insight into her personality. I think she's a little bit whimsical. I wanted to hate her when I read the book initially, and then I learned a little about her, and then I actually read ahead, and like it really, I don't hate her at all. I mean, I kind of like the overall story, but like what shocks me about this book is that it never should have been published just by itself, because it does not make sense. And it actually, it's not like there's a cliffhanger, it is, but like the overall concepts. I mean, if I wasn't doing this podcast, I would have stopped reading it after like the first third.
All right. Well, we'll get it. Let's get into your thoughts on the book a little bit. But I also
we can transition into that. Go ahead.
I felt that in all the interviews that I listened to or watched of her, she has got a very nice personality. She seems like a humble person.
She does,
and is very humble about this tremendous success she's had. I liked her personality. She talked a little bit into her personal life in that. She said that she did stuff.
She's got to be humble about that, though, Ryan, because at the end of the book, she acknowledged about 250 people who are all working behind the scenes to make this thing successful.
Well, no one has to.
They all knew that they were riding this wave.
No one, all right? No one has to be humble, Rick. I mean, we're not all Amity like you.
Yeah, it's that age, though, too. I remember, like, when I was 22, I'm like, when I get married, I'm going to invite 500 people to my wedding. I got married, I invited 19 people. And that was still too many. I mean,
and we're there under protest.
Yeah, it's at this age where, like, your friend, you still love
Wait, you didn't
people.
invite me to your wedding, I don't think.
No, I didn't.
I wasn't there either.
Nope.
Oh, my God. Let's have another podcast about that. But anyways, what I wanted to say was that, she did admit that she has suffers from anxiety issues and has had therapy for that. And I don't know if that was partial inspiration for some of the stuff, the initiation stuff, and what goes on in the books.
Yeah, she still seemed anxious in the interview that I saw. She's kind of her voice is.
But she's had to experience a lot at such a young age.
What do you mean a lot? I mean, come on, we don't really know much about her. I mean, come on, what the hell did you experience?
No, but I mean, just this all this fame at so young. I mean, that would be daunting for many people to.
I suppose
take that on.
She was a producer on the movie, and she. I mean, well, hey, Amanda, we're doing all the talking here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so has anybody read the third book, like finished the whole series?
I have.
Okay, so...
I heard that she did a lot of research for that.
So, overall, I think she tried very hard to create a Jesus-like character, and I knew she was a Christian, and when I first read the series, the first two were out, so I read them back to back. And then I had to wait like 5 months before I could read the third one. And I kind of had a feeling about what was going to happen in the third. And it was true. And I was very disappointed in the ending of the series. Like, I love the first two books. And then the third one just completely let me down. And I felt like Veronica Roth just like flipped everyone off. Like, thanks for loving my book. Like, here's the middle finger salute.
Oh.
And it just really pissed me off. Like, I threw the book against the wall.
That's what I liked.
this sucks. And I was like, why would you do this?
Yeah, well, she admitted that the third
I
book
agree.
was...
She saved the series, Amanda. You're right. She saved the series. No, I thought she grew up in the last one.
Well, no, I mean, that's very interesting because I have not read the other two books, Amanda, but I did pick up that there was some controversy at the end, and some of the fans, there was some backlash.
I think most of the fans
Yeah, she had a hard time writing it.
were not okay with the ending. And like even today, it's like I had a year and a half to soak in, and I'm still like on the edge of like how I like that ending. But the first one I thought was good. The second one was my favorite. It just like is action the whole book, and it was really good. And then the third one just completely let me down. The entire book was boring, and the ending sucked. And after that, I just don't like her as a person.
Didn't the third book go a lot into like genetics and the science of biology and stuff like that? She did a whole lot of research for that third book. And she kind of had to strain herself to write from two different perspectives, which was kind of a strain for her because she was so used to writing from Triss's perspective the whole time.
Yeah, the whole book is written in first person. But I mean, it sounds like we're kind of done talking about her, the author. Does anyone else have any comments about Miss Roth, or should we move into the book?
Yeah, we've been talking about the book for the last 10 minutes. So, yeah.
Yeah, come on.
Okay, Will, thanks for directing us there. Well, why don't you give us a quick synopsis of the book, and let's just get right into it.
Seriously.
Don't forget to include characters.
But haven't we been talking about the book for like 10 minutes?
Okay, what now?
Will, give us a quick synopsis of the book.
Okay. The book we've been talking about.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it takes place in what might be Chicago. It is Chicago, and it's in a weird post-apocalyptic future, and no one really knows why the apocalypse happened, and everyone's in a fraternity or sorority that's based on one personality type, and they all dress alike, and they all do one thing, and it's maddening. It was maddening to me because it just didn't make any sense, and it just seems so...
This is like the worst synopsis of a book I've ever heard.
You haven't listened to any of the other. You haven't listened to any of the other episodes.
This is so painful to listen to this synopsis.
It was painful to read it. So, anyways,
okay, Wilk, I think the flat tire is affecting you. But
okay, so I will give a synopsis of the story.
All right, please. Amanda, please help us out so we can, set this up.
Okay, so this is a dystopian futuristic novel set in Chicago post-apocalypse, and
it's already better. This is already a better synopsis.
Society has split themselves into 5 factions, each one representing a different virtue. And when you're a teenager, you pick a faction. They are dauntless, amity, erudite, candor, and abnegation. And you pick which faction you want to belong to. But if you switch factions, you would never see your family ever again. You put your faction before your family. So the book starts with the main character, Triss, and it's right before she has to choose. And she's really torn between staying with her family in abnegation and following what she thinks might be a better choice for herself. So that's how the book starts.
Okay, that's a great synopsis. Now, Will,
that's great.
I hope you took notes. Maybe now, in season 2, you'll start to learn how to do a synopsis. But so, Mandy, you talked about the fact that there's 5 factions, which you identified, and they're based on virtues.
Right.
So, Rick, let me go to you real quick on that. Yeah. How did you feel about the faction system? I mean, this is a world that's constructed on the fact that you're not supposed to have loyalty to like maybe race or creed or socioeconomic status. You're supposed to identify with a certain virtue that's kind of akin to your personality type. Now, it's somewhat based on your genetics per se because they do a test on you, but you're allowed to choose where you want to go. And I guess the idea is by identifying this, you're more yourself, and you'll be less loyal to maybe things that don't matter. But yet, people do form these little cliques, just like people do in any kind of community. But what did you feel about that aspect of the book? Did you believe the factions?
No, I thought it was kind of disingenuous, especially after reading some of the author's notes at the end of the book. Before I got to like a quarter of the way through, I'm like, what the hell? There's got to be more explanation to this. So Veronica Roth is like talking about how it's almost a utopia because you get to choose what you want to be. And after I had read that, I'm like, no way. In order to grow as a human being, I feel like you should incorporate as much as you can. You have to be balanced, okay? And this is sort of words from the ancients. Confucius wrote about this. The 5 elements these are all ancient things in pagan lore and in Buddhist lore, and the ultimate goal is to incorporate all 5 elements and balance yourself. And it just kind of strayed away from that completely. She did use those mechanisms, but then she sort of made it a point to try and focus into one. And she also made the counterpoint, the same story, that, it's okay to be divergent. It's okay to kind of try to embrace all of the virtues.
Yeah, Amanda, do you feel like the aspect of that there's a divergent, like you can be divergent, do you think that sort of alleviated what Rick is talking about and made it believable? Because there are people who don't fit neatly into these categories.
Well, I was kind of thinking about our society in general, and kind of people can definitely associate more with one than the other. Like, there are people who kind of dedicate their lives to helping others and volunteering, and then there's other people who are very smart. So I think there is a blend, but like you might have a higher percentage of one than another. And I think Veronica was just trying to create a society in which you just take that to the extreme and you kind of just limit everything else and just go with your strongest characteristic.
Wilk, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, to me, that was my whole problem with this. I mean, the book just seemed to defy evolution in human nature. And I'm reading this, I'm like, it can't be this simple. It's a de-evolution of behavior and progression. I mean, and just the simplified process. It was like a John Hughes movie where you got the nerds, you got the burnouts, you got the geeks, you got the jocks, and everyone is so, I mean, by design, one-dimensional. The notion that you're going to abandon your family and create a new family, it's akin to joining a fraternity or a cult, and the way that it's embraced, it just seemed counterintuitive unless you're under threat of execution to do something like that. And again, as the books evolved, the explanation as to why it was there more in the second and third books. But in the first book, when you're reading it in a vacuum, I just couldn't believe that it was published like that, because I just the whole concept just seems so abhorrent. I'd be in the abhorrent faction. I'm like, why are we doing this? This is silly. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure you're in the abhorrent faction of Planet Earth, as it is.
Calm down. Let's be civil
Okay.
Here.
All right.
Okay.
But a counterpoint to what you're saying, though, is this is, as Amanda pointed out, set up in a dystopian world, a post-apocalyptic world, and there is a little hint that there might have been a war previously that sort of resulted in this sort of segregation of society into these factions. But now, to that point, to that point, I also think that said, which I think sort of justifies how she did this, that said, I don't think she really expanded in the world at large to kind of bolster that up. And in some of the interviews that I heard her talking about, she kind of admitted that she, this is a contained city that's fenced in, and you don't even really have an idea of what's going on outside that would have created society like this. And she doesn't go into like a rich history and stuff like that. But go ahead, Will.
Yeah, I mean, I have a real problem with this new generation of young adult authors out there, and I wanted to make and I was talking about this with Laura last night,
your wife,
who's read this whole series. And my wife, she likes the young adult novels a lot more than I do. Kind of comparing this to Harry Potter, where Harry Potter took some existing concepts that were out there and really made a fantastic series out of it. And I feel like The Hunger Games and Twilight have taken existing concepts and weakened them and watered them down and bastardized them for people that don't know or don't appreciate the source material. Because this to me, I mean, like, it's dystopian fantasy, but it has no explanation for dystopian. I mean, the whole idea of a dystopian novel is trying to grasp humanity and try and see how humans remain and exist once they lose the structure of society. And here they just completely restructured society, and I thought the whole human element was just gone. And they were acting like John Hughes characters, and it seemed akin to somebody who was dealing with a Greek system in college. And I'm just thinking of the age. I'm like, is this like holding a metaphor for being independent and not pledging a sorority? I mean, that was my. I just didn't see it was so one-dimensional, and it was really aggravating to read. I could not get involved. All the characters seems stripped of humanity, but again, it kind of made more sense as I read the other two books. Mostly skimmed them, to be honest, but I did get through them.
Amanda, go ahead. Amanda, you wanted to add something?
I think he made a really good point about, like, Harry Potter kind of did the same thing, in which when you, like, start school, you get sorted into a house, and each house represents something different, but it wasn't so one-dimensional, like, this is your only trait, this is your only characteristic, because we saw, like, Hermione was one of the smartest people at that school, yet she was in Gryffindor, which was bravery. And she was very multidimensional, yet she kind of got sorted into one than the other. So I think it is a good point. Like, when I read the book, I was like, this isn't very believable, because I wouldn't just associate with one trait than another.
But at the same time, isn't this the job of science fiction or fantasy, to take these kind of concepts, these extreme concepts sometimes, and go with them and explore them through the writing process and craft? And she does it here. Now, maybe you guys are saying the author herself didn't do enough to make it work within her work, but I don't know that the concept itself is at fault.
Well, Ryan, she actually
and it's not a bad idea.
No, I don't think it's the concept. I think it was the writing.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, she addresses a lot of the concerns I'm bringing up in the future work. She really does. She actually deals with them pretty well, but I'm saying in a vacuum in this book, it's very frustrating. And I kept reading it because the book I had a few bonus chapters, and then I grabbed Laura's copies, and I just kind of blew through them, and she actually addresses a lot of these concerns. And again, when I was watching this and reading this, I kept thinking the whole time, what? Okay.
No, I would just say, okay, we kind of talked about this a lot.
No? All right. Is a Sandman going to brush me off here? All right, go on. Sorry.
No, I think we're getting a little repetitive. I was going to kind of move on to maybe another aspect of the book. And the other aspect that I was thinking about is...
do that. Okay.
Rick, in this book, one of the part of the initiation that the main character Triss has to go through to be part of Dauntless is go through these simulations and sort of virtual reality tests and stuff. And some of them, there's tests. They're almost like logic tests like you would get in like a Philip K. Dick. It made me think about Blade Runner when they're trying to discover, is a person an android or not. But I felt like Philip K. Dick kind of did a better job of that. I felt like the virtual reality stuff, maybe it's just not so new of a concept anymore, but I kind of felt like I just wasn't buying it. Like, I wasn't real into like the fear landscape where these people have to go in and face their fears, and they're stuck in the neck with a needle, and then then they have to face their fears in a virtual environment and control their heartbeat, and then if they do, then they're becoming a better person. What did you think about that aspect of the book, Rick?
I mean, it was a really convenient thing to do, to just kind of draw out these fears pretty much on demand. It was just sort of like fast food for psychoanalysis, and I was kind of disinterested in it. I just reading about hallucinations within a book as a matter of testing these initiates to get into a faction that I really could care less about didn't grab me. I was very disinterested. My answer to your question is probably incomplete, but it's just I was just sort of the fact that they just inject all these initiates with some kind of serum. Why couldn't they just stay conscious and give them sort of a truth serum and start asking them questions and putting them through, scenarios, real scenarios? They kind of touched on that a little bit when they played Capture the Flag.
Yeah.
But, it was just, I'd rather have the mode be something other than just sitting in a chair and start hallucinating, where people are sort of, peeking into your thoughts from the outside. It just...
All right, Rick,
it wasn't interesting.
Wilkie, let's move on to another aspect. What did you think about the overall tone of the book? Well, like the relationships of the people with their families and the characters, Triss's friends, Al, Christina, Will, and stuff like that. Did you think the characters were believable or, trite? What was your feeling?
No, the characters did not seem believable to me. I didn't find them relatable. I didn't really care if they lived or died. It seemed like it was it was like a camp experience or a college experience. And again, they were just so one-dimensional. The characters didn't really do things that made me care about them at all. I mean, I just felt like every character should have been trying to get the fuck out of that city and not sticking around. Or they could have been explaining, or there could have been some context to life outside the city.
Well, tell us how you really feel.
Well, no, but I mean...
Well, Amanda, what did you think about the characters? Did you... Amanda, did you feel like you related to them?
Well, when it's written from first person, normally your instinct is to bond with the main character, and I actually kind of bonded with the character of 4 more than I did with Triss. Plus, I have a fear of heights, so that kind of got me. But I think he made a point in the book, it's impossible to overcome your fears, but the purpose is to figure out how to live with them, to not let them keep you from doing things in life. And I thought that part of the book just kind of really resonated with me, and I really liked his character, especially as the series went on. I liked his character a lot more than I liked Triss's.
Well, how did you feel about the relationship between, Triss and 4? That's like the love interest in the book. Did you believe the relationship? He's sort of her mentor and teacher, and then, then she falls for him, but it only goes so far.
I mean, he's the only character that's not a complete ass or a complete non-attractive character. I mean, like, all the other men in her life, there's no... even Twilight at least had, like, other interesting men around that were competing for the affection. It's like there's 4, and there's the guy that's, like, basically eye-raping her the whole time, and then there's... I don't know. He's the love interest because he's the love interest because there's no one else there. It might as well have been on an island.
Wait, I'm sorry. Who was I raping her?
He's just a love interest by default, and by his eyes.
Yeah, there's no other candidate there.
Okay, can I just hate...
Yeah, Amanda, go ahead.
God, I hate stories that have a love triangle. It's not realistic whatsoever, and it's just so annoying. So that was actually one of the reasons I prefer this series over others, because it seems like every other teenage book these days has to have a love triangle.
Like the Twilight series. Yeah, I thought that was a good thing, too. That she was kind of more original, that she didn't go that route, and she did
triangle,
just...
But...
And I heard an interview by the author where she said she didn't want to have external forces...
don't filibuster, come on.
...force in the relationship and...
Yeah, Ryan,
and stuff like that.
I'm going to go to bed, dude. You quit talking over me, man. I mean, I race home here with a flat tire, and you're, like, being an asshole. No, so... This is getting really irritating.
Go, Will. Come on. I want to hear you.
No. Ryan was making a really horrible point about something. Go on.
No. Go ahead, Will. You're not going to say anything? Okay.
My point is, you've got a bunch of 16-year-olds away from home for the first time. Everyone's going to be fucking everyone there. There's not going to be like a love triangle. There's going to be a big ball of love because they're all going to be jumping on each other because there's no supervision and people are trying to kill them. You look at people in the army when they're 18, 19 years old, they bone constantly. They have a huge STD and pregnancy problem in the army. I'm not joking. Ask George. Ask what they've been in the army. People that are going to wait home.
They'll get like pieces of fruit and do them.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the most tame group of 16-year-olds.
In that respect, it's unrealistic.
Who are jumping off trains. And it's like, hey, here's this one guy. I'm kind of into him. Let's have a slow, tension-filled romance that doesn't involve any heavy petting for 300 pages. No. Bullshit. He's not going to be into that. This guy's like 19 years old. Oh, this plain-looking girl is really into me. I'm going to see where this goes. No, you're not. You're going to be, you're a teacher. You're going to be hitting every recruit that comes through the door. Again, it didn't strike me as realistic. It was boring and lame and one-dimensional.
You wanted more smut.
Not more smut, but it just, at the same time, at least with like...
More realism.
I like the Harry Potter or Twilight or the Hunger Games. I would say this be a love triangle, but it's like at that age, you're just full of hormones and...
There's a lot more sex in Harry Potter.
There's a lot more interest in Harry Potter. There's a lot more people in Harry Potter. There's a lot more interaction. Nothing's happening between the two. So they're going to be looking for things to happen elsewhere.
Can I respond to that?
Please.
Yeah, I mean, okay. Yeah, that would have been great, and I think if it were written by any other author, it would have happened. But with the context in the story, I mean, Triss is 16, 4 is 18. That is forbidden. You can't write about that. It would never have gotten published if it were written that way. And I don't think Veronica would have had the bravery to kind of go through that. She would never have been published.
No,
I don't think she wanted to. I think that she had a tone that she wanted to accomplish, and I think she accomplished it. And I don't know that you have to have the smut or whatever, it'd be the explicitness that you guys are talking about. I mean, I can understand you said I felt like the relationship was frustrating. I felt that like it took forever for us to, for us for Tris to even kiss for.
Oh my God.
It was going on a long time. But I mean, it's a YA book, and the author had a certain tone she wanted to go for, and that's what she did.
Tris was in love with a gay guy. That's what I got out of the whole thing, because no guy is going to wait around that long when he's surrounded by hot recruits that are into him. Sorry, he's 18. He's surrounded by 16-year-olds that look up to him, and he's a position of authority. He's probably gay.
4 was abnegation. He's more abnegation than he is any other faction, so it does sort of make sense, right?
Yeah. Fair enough. Okay. I don't buy that faction nonsense.
Another thing that I noticed in these books was that there are these sharp moments of just of violence. They're pretty, I guess, poignant. There's a scene in the dormitory where is it Peter goes and stabs one of the other recruits right in the eye while he's sleeping. Yeah. And it's pretty jarring.
Yeah.
And then also later in the book, Tris ends up shooting her friend. And she also loses her parents. And those moments were pretty serious, and you don't always see that in books. And I thought those were good parts of this book and good risks that the author took. Amanda, what did you feel about that?
Oh, sorry, I just had a moment here. Okay, so, yeah, I thought it was really well done in the movie as well. When her mom died and when she shoots her friend in the head, I think it was a very good book to film, adaptation of how that was translated, and I think it really got across, like, she really didn't want to, and really being caught up in the moment, and it was kind of like that's what she was trained to do, was to just kind of forget about who was standing next to her and do what you have to do. And I think that it really plays
a more believable part of the book.
It was believable, but also they play a huge role moving forward in the series, that those moments stay with her for a long time, which I liked, because I'm like, you wouldn't forget those moments. Those are going to be things that are kind of going to eat at you for a long time. Like you won't ever be able to let them go, which I think really sets up the second and third book.
Yeah, I think the author has said, or I heard her say in some of these interviews, that she didn't want to make any like overt political statements with this book, and that it doesn't have that tone and feel. It's more about a personal struggle. I think she accomplishes it. I don't think I have anything else to cover. Does anyone else have to cover on the book, or we move on to the director in the movie?
Well, I think she makes political statements in the book, Ryan. It's too bad that you had to leave it at that. But Veronica Roth, she picks Dauntless to be the faction of the mind-controlled. And Dauntless is the perfect faction to have their minds controlled. And these are the people that are most concerned with, action and guns and kicking each other's asses and just that personality type. There's a suggestion there that, a soldier is just that, just a soldier. They will follow rules. And she accentuated that with the mind control that was adapted for the book. And I think that was a pretty strong point. These people, they just fight. They don't ask why. They just do it. And she further made that point, having, Tris and 4 kill innocent people. They just had to do it. They couldn't question it. They just had to do it to make an example that they were not afraid to do it.
Well, I know some people pointed out that she makes erudite to be the bad ones, and they're the intellectuals. So it's almost like she's have a statement against, intellectualism or like people in their ivory towers and stuff going bad. I understand that. Well, Wilk, you want to say something?
Yeah. One thought. Well, yeah. Just any of the book, the mind control thing was an interesting element, but just want to bring up one more young adult novel that we've all probably read, Lord of the Flies, and. That was like a junior high school book. I remember I went on rereading it at some point, but one of the most chilling things in that book is when the kids, on their own free will, create their own society, and they kill Piggy by crushing his skull. And here, it wasn't nearly, it would have been so much more chilling, because I think they're impressionable enough if they were trying to, if she shot her friend, but he was not being mind controlled, he was being manipulated without chemicals. The chemical, that whole MacGuffin device weakened it for me a little bit. And again, it's not caring. It's like, oh, there's a magic chemical that makes you do everything you want. We're all in the Matrix, fine. So, but other than that, no, but I thought it was a really good scene in the movie, and I thought it was a poignant scene in the book, but I kept thinking to myself, do they really, why use the chemicals? Why not just, manipulate them into doing this? And that would be real horror. That would be real scary, and that could happen in real life. And again, I kept thinking of Lord of the Flies, because you have basically kids a little bit younger doing the same kind of things, turning on each other. But here it was like they gave it like a safety net where, well, they're not really bad. They're just killing innocent people because somebody gave them a bad pill. And I don't know. It just kind of... Yeah.
I agree with you. I didn't really like
one of the...
Go ahead.
Oh. Well, I thought one of the big differences between this series and a lot of the other futuristic dystopian novels is that most of the dystopian novels are bad because the government has been corrupted. And I thought it was interesting because in this book, it wasn't the government or how society is set up. Like, that part actually kind of worked. What really fell apart was like these few individuals trying to corrupt the system and take more power. So it was set up a little bit differently, and I think that could also be a political statement. You know, the few who, the rebellions, I guess, the rebels.
I felt like the mind control aspect of it. I didn't like that element of it. I don't know the mind controlled army thing, but I did think, like I said, the elements of violence, those sharp elements of violence, were really good parts of the book. All right, well then let's move on to the movie from here. That was directed by Neil Berger. Wilk, you're gonna give us a little background on Mr. Berger.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy. He hasn't made a lot of feature films, and he didn't really get his start directing feature films until he was closer to my age, or Rick's age, or Ryan's age, in his mid to late 30s. He did a lot of
your age,
my age. I'm the oldest one here, aren't I? Yeah. He in between his 37th birthday and his graduation from Yale, he wandered a bit. He got married at 97, but he made his living by.
He got married at 97.
He got married at 97. He did. Yeah.
Oh, 1997. I thought you said the age 97.
No, he got married in 1997. Sorry, 97. And
just delete that part. Come on.
In an interview that I listened to today at the session of Ryan, I mean, he made his living doing commercials, like, for TV. That's how he made his money. And he kind of
he worked for Ridley Scott's company. Did you see that?
No, but
apparently Ridley Scott has an offset company that does commercials. So I guess that's who he did the commercials for.
Okay,
which was interesting.
So, but that being said, the movies that he's made. There's about 5 major films that he's made. Most of them I can honestly say I've hated, but 2 of them I've really loved. And I actually really like Divergent. I like the movie. I liked it better than the book. I like the visual aspects. That was a very well shot movie. But he also made a movie called The Lucky Ones with Tim Robbins about 3 people returning from the Iraq War, traveling across the country. I thought it was a gem. And then he made The Illusionist, which I thought was terrible, and Limitless, which is everything that's wrong with movies. And but beyond that, I mean, he seems very vanilla in interviews. But I think he's talented. I think he's got a certain visual style that he brings to the films. And going back, I kind of want to watch Limitless and Illusionist again, because while I hated the content of those movies, I'm kind of interested in the style. But so this is the latest movie of his, Divergent, and I was really pretty impressed with the. I thought it was a pretty faithful adaptation of the book when it could be, and he didn't diminish the book in the movie, and he really kind of captured a nice post-apocalypse Chicago, and the best thing about this book movie were the visuals. I would say just the scenes and the way it was set up. So that's my take on him.
Yeah, I know he said he wanted to make this dystopian different than the typical dystopian you'd see in films like gray and bleak, and he wanted to make it look like this society worked because that's the impression he got, is this was a functioning society for a while. A couple of things I picked up on with him is that I think he actually started off before he got into films and stuff, he was like a bit of a painter. I don't know that he did that at all professionally, but it was part of his growing up. And I think he directed videos for MTV. He did a Meat Puppets video, actually. I saw that. And I don't know if you mentioned it. He was a Yale grad. I think you did mention that.
He mentions that in every interview. He always says that.
Rick, he
does not let that get away.
Rick, did you have something to add about the director?
No, I didn't do a whole lot of research on him. Nothing really. So yeah, and the movie was extremely faithful to the book. There was just one difference that I caught, and it was at the end, where it was one strong woman against the other. Triss fought Janine, who was the leader of the Erudite, and she had basically stopped Janine from turning off the the transmitters to all of the Dauntless, and it was just sort of like this one-on-one between her and Janine. And in the book, it was basically Ford just turning the whole thing off because it seemed like he was like the only one in that control room manipulating the Dauntless. So
I think the movie was a lot different than the book. I don't consider it very faithful. They changed the order of a lot of events. If you had noticed, I read the book maybe 2 or 3 times before the movie came out, and even though a lot of the scenes are the same, they changed the order in which they occurred, which I thought kind of gave a different impression. There were a couple scenes added into the movie that weren't in the book, and then the ending was totally different because Janine was nowhere to be seen at the end of the book, which kind of led me to believe, I'm like,
right.
Well, if she was there, why wouldn't they kill her, or why wouldn't they arrest her or do whatever? They just left her. And, I went and saw this movie with my dad, and he had that question, like, well, why did they just leave her? And I'm like, well, they had to, because this didn't happen in the book, and she has to be alive for the next book. So, I was kind of disappointed a little bit with the ending, and the change of order wasn't too big of a deal, but I wouldn't necessarily consider it faithful to the book.
I saw some differences in the surrounding characters, or the secondary characters. Peter, who is one of the antagonists, and also Al is one of her friends who betrays her. I felt like they didn't develop those guys as much as the book did. And so when the betrayal by Al came, it was kind of flat. Because I didn't feel like we really got a lot of sense of Al like you did in the book, where in the book he's crying at night and she's helping him, or she's, has all these thoughts about him. I felt like Al and Will kind of got lost in each other. And I also felt like Peter, who's this, big jerk and a constant source of strain on her. I mean, he is a jerk in the movie, but he's not as much. And he doesn't do the violent stabbing thing. And you don't have that sense that you have in the book of they're playing for keeps here. I don't know. Wilk, how did you feel about that?
Yeah.
Well, and Amanda, really, I mean, just from doing the podcast the last year and a half, like we've seen so many horrible renditions of books to movies. When we say faithful, yeah, it's not anywhere near 100%, but I think it captures the overall spirit and story arc without greatly altering it. All those differences you made are absolutely right. I mean, they actually, they took some of the more shocking violence out of the movie, but I'm kind of used to that at this point, I think, too. I thought they captured the spirit of the book, at least the way that I read it. I mean, I thought it was almost comical. I think I was telling, maybe I didn't tell Ryan at one point, or sent him a text, but it almost reminded me of Monty Python-esque stuff when they had Dauntless come on for the first time. That's like they're all jumping around and making noises. It was like a Mountain Dew commercial in the middle of a movie. I was cracking up. I'm like, we're Dauntless! We're everywhere! We're bouncing off walls! We're doing this! And I don't know, but not like in a... not.
That's kind of how she described him in the
right,
book,
but
I kind
was
of had
laughing.
that...
yeah. But I know what you're saying.
I liked it, though. I liked it. I mean,
when they were, like...
Amanda, go ahead.
Standing there at that building, because the whole movie was filmed in Chicago, or most part of it. So, and then, some of it was just 3D rendering on a computer, but I was like, yeah, I know where that building is. There's no train there. That's not realistic. There's no train.
It's the future, man.
I'm like, I'm disappointed. There's no train there.
There's no giant wall keeping them in or keeping them out.
Now, also, in the movie, in the fear landscape, Trish she has a fear, I guess, of intimacy with Four. In the book, it's sort of made more clear. That's one of her fears. But in the movie, they have Four coming onto her in a physical way and sort of forcing himself on her and having to fight him off.
Oh yeah,
and that's not how that is in the book,
not at
right?
all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
No.
And that was such an interesting choice for them to go
but
that
it goes
way.
to my point.
Yeah,
I think in a visual context, it's hard to picture the book. There's got to be like more. Come on, he's 18 years old. This is not like a date rapey thing. I'm just saying he's gonna make more moves. Otherwise, he's got to. I mean, he's gonna at least make a move. I would think.
But why did they?
Yeah, there are scenes that don't translate well to film. Like as I was reading the book, I'm like, these scenes aren't going to translate very well when they put this into a film. So I understood why they were changed, but they really didn't play into... I mean, she had a big fear of intimacy in the book, and they really didn't put that in the movie at all.
Yeah. Instead, they made it...
I agree.
That she was... They sort of tied it back into the incident where her friend betrays her, and they're going to either push her off the ledge or take advantage of her, and they kind of related it to that event. I guess maybe they were just trying to consolidate and cut down time because they felt like they had a lot of stuff to put in. I don't know. I know that they had a $40 million budget, I think, to start, but then they upped it to $80 million after the Hunger Games success.
Oh my God,
They certainly had
that movie was $80 million. Holy cow!
Yeah,
that
but
shipwreck looked like a painting. What the hell? Where they put all their money?
Divergent was
but CGI is expensive.
a very in-depth.
Sorry.
Yeah, Divergent was a longer book. I mean, it was almost 600 pages, and Hunger Games was closer to 300. There was not a lot of detail. It read really fast, and the scenes were very quick. And so I think the movie's going to be better because they can put more detail in the movie, whereas in like Divergent is a longer book, like similar to Harry Potter, where 50-60% of this book is going to get cut. And then it's going to seem fast and choppy because they cut so much out. And I think that has to do with a lot with that. It's just a longer book.
Yeah, it definitely is. Okay, well, let me ask you this. Amanda, the second movie is going to be coming out soon. Are you looking forward to that? I mean, actually, when this podcast comes out, the second movie will already be out. Are you going to go see it?
Yeah, I'll go see it.
You are interested in going to see it? Okay.
Yes.
What about you, Will, since you kind of read ahead?
I really like the movie. I don't hate the series overall at this point, so I don't... I'll probably, if my 11-year-old wants to go see it, I'll go see it. But other than that, I'm going to probably watch it at home when it comes out on demand. But I will watch it, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, long answer.
All right. That's all I got on the movie. Does anyone else have any thoughts on the movie?
Well, I have higher hopes for the second movie because, with a lot of these movies or books, the first one takes so much time just to set up the society because it's different. It's not like you can just jump into the story. There's a lot of background that you have to go through. So I think I have high hopes for the second one because now they can just tell a good story.
Hey, Amanda.
Then let's just give our.
Sorry. No, I kind of want to. I had some.
Go ahead.
Since you're a bigger fan of the series, I had some. I'll wait to the broadcast. I had some questions for her because I have some questions about the book. Can I? Here's what I didn't really get.
Oh, you want to do that when
we're
done?
What created the apocalypse? What was the event that happened? I mean, am I supposed to know that or pick it up? I mean, I didn't figure that out, and I
don't think it was like a physical event, like meteor hit the Earth. I think it was more just humanity just destroyed itself. And I think you get a glimpse of that in the third book. It wasn't a physical event. I think, just war and humanity just tears itself apart, and just enough war breaks out that everyone pretty much dies, and there's not many people left.
And I did like,
okay. Well, why don't we just? Well, why don't we? You could do that afterwards.
Okay.
Because I don't want to spoil the other books.
Why not?
Let's just give our final comments on the book and movie. Let's start with you, Will.
If you're gonna read this book, keep reading the other two because it actually does get better as you read the trilogy. And then you'll hate it, you'll like it, and then if you're Amanda, you'll hate it again because a lot of people do not like the ending, including people I work with and my wife. I like the ending though, but I'm kind of an ass.
All right. How many stars?
3 out of 50.
Rick, let's go to you.
Just flatly disinterested in the book and the story. I don't really care about what the sequels are all about. I'll be glad to kind of turn my back on this one forever.
How many stars? Out of 5.
Movie 1, the book gets 2.
Okay. Amanda, final thoughts and how many stars out of 5?
I really liked the book. I was slightly disappointed with the movie. However, I really liked Shailene Woodley. I think she was kind of like a breath of fresh air as far as acting goes. So she bumps up the movie rating. I would give the movie 3 out of 5 stars, and I would give the book 4 out of 5.
Okay. I'll give the book and movie 3 stars. I think it's enjoyable enough, and it moves fast. I think it kind of sets out what the author wanted to do. And after Wilk and Amanda, your comments, it does make me a little more curious to see how she does develop the bigger world at large. So I'm not sure if I had time, if I'd get to the other books or not, but you guys have definitely kind of intrigued me more hearing about that. So that'll wrap things up. Next month, we'll be reviewing the book Carrie, written by Stephen King, and 2 movies based on that book, one directed by Brian De Palma, which starred Sissy Spacek, and the other one directed by Kimberly Pierce, which starred Chloe Grace Moretz. Now, this is a change-up from our normal schedule where we were going to review The Moon and the Sun by Vonda N. McIntyre. However, the movie, based on that book, the release date has been delayed, at least at this time. So we're substituting Carrie in for that. So we'll ask everyone to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. You can listen to our podcast on iTunes or check us out on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe to us, write reviews. We appreciate that. We're also on Twitter. And with that, goodbye, everyone. Good night.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.
For more information on the topics discussed in this episode, Or to read our show notes and find us on social media, visit nodeodorant.com. For more information on Ryan Sean O'Reilly and his various works of fiction, visit ryanseano'reilly.com. For more information on David Wilkinson, visit drycracker.com. For more information on Richard Mell, check out his profile at goodreads.com. The theme music for this podcast was written by John Doyle from the band I Decline. You can visit him at i-decline.com. Voiceover for this podcast was provided by me, Margaret O'Reilly. Well, that concludes our episode. We hope you've learned a lot. Again, thanks for listening to our show. And always, always remember, there is no deodorant in outer space.
Film. So those were good ones.
Amanda,
Yeah, hold on, we had a
hold
little-
on a second. Do you guys notice the audio?
Yeah, the audio
Can you
kind
hear
of
me?
lagged out a little bit. Yeah, I can hear you. Rick.
Hello.
Wilk, are you still there?
Yeah.
Oh,
Wilk, are you?
can everyone
Amanda's
hear me?
been cutting out. I really can't understand.
Okay, Wilk, are you
I'm
still
here.
I'm here. This is a disaster.
Hello.
I can't. Yeah. Hello.
All right, well, you know what? Do you want me to restart the call? I'll restart the call, but no one stop recording because I think we just let Audacity run out. Okay. I'm
What?
gonna recall.
What?
I'll
What's
recall
going on?
you guys, but no one pause the recording.
We're recording this?
Okay.
Okay, I'll call you back in 2 seconds.
Okay.
Okay.
Man, this is bad quality right now. Okay, testing.
Hello.
Hello. This is Rick.
Ryan, can you hear me?
Can anybody hear me? Because I can't hear anybody
This
else.
is something. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do.
Hello.
Do, 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 do. Do,
Not
do,
hearing
do,
a thing.
Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da.
This is me.
Da,
That's
da, da,
Ryan.
da, da.
Yeah.
Can anybody hear me?
Oh man. I don't hear a damn thing. It's just going to be another editing marathon for Ryan. Yeah. Okay, if anybody hears me, I'm hanging up because this is not obviously working.
Hello?
This is bad. I am not hearing anything.
Yeah, what?
Ryan, you got to call me. I'm not on.
No, dude, I'm not on.
Oh, okay.
I'm resetting my internet right now, and now it's like not connecting. Fuck. Give me
Jesus.
5 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, all right. 5 minutes.
Check.
Holy cow! I'm back.
Hello?
Okay.
I'm back. Look, you're back. Amanda, you're there. Hello.
Hi.
Everyone hear the British computer lady? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it was
sounds
a little
pretty bad on
choppy,
my end.
though.
You're here.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Amanda, you're here.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So if we have a little lag, it's just a little lag. We can ignore it because we're all still recording natively. Did anyone stop recording?
I kept on recording.
Wilk, you're good.
Yes.
Amanda, you're good.
Yep.
Okay. So if we have a little lag, don't worry about it because we're all recording separately. Oh my God, this is the worst it's ever been. Oh my God.
I just want to tell you that
so
this is actually going smoother than most of our podcasts, Amanda, just so you know. This is really going pretty well.
okay. Sorry about that, Amanda. You were telling us about the other.
Oh, Ryan just hit puberty. Oh, no.
You were telling us about the
I
other.
don't even
Thomas.
remember where I left off. Went on. I liked
I
his
can't
character
hear
a lot
what
more
he
than
was
I liked Triss's.
Okay, sounds good. Rick, can you hear me? Oh my God. Rick?
Can everyone still hear
Amanda,
me?
I think the only person who heard that was you. Does anybody hear me right now?
Rick?
What's going on with
Hello.
the computers, guys? I can't hear anything.
Oh, God.
Oh, man. Okay, I'm back. Wilk?
I can hear you,
Amanda?
Ryan. Yeah,
Yeah.
can you hear me?
Amanda? Okay.
I just cut out,
Rick, you
but
there?
I'm back now.
Rick? We're still calling Rick.
He's not there.
It's still
He's
calling
not there.
him. It must be his computer. I blame him.